The focus of this video is on standard form in terms of the linear equation. So the first thing we want to explore is what is standard form. So it looks like this in this box here: ax plus by equals c. And a, b, and c are integers. So that means that where a, b, and c are, there would be numbers. So an example might look like 2x plus 3y equals 7, right? Integers, if you're like, I'm not exactly sure what that means there are no fractions or decimals. So everything is a positive or negative number. Okay, so I think one thing I like to do is kind of look back at kind of previous linear equations so we can know some things about standard. So remember that with slope-intercept form, we were given the slope and the y-intercept. We could see them in the equation. With point slope, we could see the point. We could see a slope. With standard form, we don't get anything. You see nothing at face value. So when you look at that equation, you actually don't know anything about the line. But you can use it to find things, to calculate things, which is what we're going to use it for. So you can calculate three things with standard form. The first are the x and y intercepts. And that's something I want to kind of explore with you right now. So if you look at the y-intercept right here, the one thing we know about that exact point is that at this point, we don't really know what y is hypothetically here, but we do know that x is 0 because we did not move side to side before we went to the y point. So we know that x is 0 here. And vice versa for this x-intercept down here, we know that, or we don't know what x is, but we do know that y is 0 because we didn't move up or down to get anywhere. So we're going to use this concept of the zeros to actually help us calculate the x and y intercepts, And then for the slopes, we're actually going to use the idea of literal equations, and we're going to solve for y in these equations. We're going to get y by itself, isolate y. And once we do, then we know that whatever is with x, that's our slope. That's what we're going to explore today. So we have 6 examples that I'm going to go through just to kind of walk you through the idea of calculating the intercepts and also calculating the slope. So taking a look at the first one, I usually set up a table to start. So when I do this, I might have x and y set up here, and I will always fill my table with the zeros on each side. Because remember, from this picture over here, we're using the idea that the intercepts are all about where x and y are 0. So that's what we're using here. So once you get kind of better at this, you might be able to kind of skip some of this like very laid out steps, but I am going to walk you through step by step how I'm doing this. So for the first one, I'm going to substitute 0 in for x. So I have 0 plus 2y equals 8. That 0, I mean, I can subtract it, but it's not going to change anything. And then I'm going to divide by 2, and I get y equals 4. So this means that my y-intercept is 4. That's the first part of this question. For the second part, I'm going to substitute 0 in for y. So now I have x plus 2 times 0 plus 8. 2 times 0 is 0. Oops. That is not plus 8, so sorry, equals 8. And again, I don't have to subtract 0 because that's not going to do anything, but just in case you need that step, that is, you can subtract 0 and get the same thing, which means that the x-intercept is 8. The last thing that you can use these standard form equations for is to calculate the slope. So when you do that, x plus 2y equals 8, we want to isolate the y, okay? So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. This cancels. X and 8 are not like terms, so now I have 2y equals 8 minus x. Remember to start from the top and work down. And then I'm going to divide everything by 2. When I do that, I'm going to separate this so I can see some stuff. I get 8 divided by 2 minus x divided by 2. And if you are looking at that like, I am not sure what that means, that's okay. So here's what this kind of, or how this works. There is a 1 here with the x, right, as its coefficient. And so I can rewrite this as negative 1/2 x. Those are the same two things, okay? And so because these are the same two things, the slope of this equation is negative 1/2. All right? So in standard form, we have just found the x-intercept, we have found the y-intercept, and we found the slope. Let's try another one of those. Let's try number 2. So again, if I wanted to find the intercepts, I'm going to create myself an xy table and fill it with zeros. So when I do this, I'm plugging in 0 for x to start. So 3 times 0 minus y equals 9. 3 times 0 is 0. So this wipes, right? It goes away. I'm not going to subtract it. It's not going to change anything. Now, there's just something to remember that when there's a negative y, y is not by itself. And there is a 1 here. So you would divide by negative 1 and get y equals negative 9. So my y-intercept is negative 9. I'm going to do this again, but now plugging in 0 for y. So it's 3x minus 0 equals 9. This minus 0, it does not matter. It's not going to change anything. So then I'm going to divide by 3 and get x equals 3. So my x-intercept is 3. My last step is to get y by itself. And there's lots of ways you can do this. But I'm going to just subtract the 3x from both sides. That negative travels down with the y, 9 minus 3x. And then I need to still get rid of that negative as well. So if I divide everything by negative 1, I hope what you're thinking about is, well, when I divide by negative 1, it's like multiplying by negative 1, which just reverses all the signs. So my slope here, my m value, ends up being 3. Go ahead and try number 3 on your own and see if you, push pause on the video and go ahead and try it. I'm gonna go through the answer here, but if I'd like you to try it to see if you're on the right track. XY table, zeros are filled in. I'm gonna plug in 0 for x to start. This wipes out. I'm going to divide by 6 and get y equals 5. Moving on to when y is 0, so negative 5x plus 6 times 0 equals 30. This wipes this time. Divide by negative 5, and I get that, that x is equal to negative 6. So in this table, I now see the x and the y-intercept. And last but not least, if I wanted to find the slope, negative 5x plus 6y equals 30. Add 5x to both sides. When you do that, you're going to end up with 5 plus 5, 6x. 5, 6 cannot be reduced. You don't want to divide it. It's a repeating decimal anyway. So your slope here, your m value, is 5, 6. That's what you would give there as your slope. Okay, a few more. Again, you can kind of push pause, do the questions, kind of skip through if you don't need the help. But kind of go at your own pace here as to what do you need. So 0 chart here. So plugging in 0 for x to start. So that negative 6 times 0 wipes out. Divide by 3 to get y by itself. And y equals negative 3. And now to plug in 0 for y. That's going to wipe, giving me, this is going to be a fraction that needs reduced. First of all, they become positive, and 9/6 reduces to 3/2. So 3/2 is our intercept, which is okay. If you gave 1.5, I'd be okay too. That's fine. In terms of the slope, if we were to solve this, negative 6x plus 3y equals negative 9. I'm going to add 6x to both sides. 3y equals negative 9 plus 6x. Divide everything by 3. So y equals, I'm going to divide this one first to get negative 3, and this one next to get 2x. So my m value is 2. So essentially just remember when you're dividing by that number that's with y, that every single thing has to be divided, not just one thing or two. All right, last two from the notes here. Finding the x and y intercept. I know this becomes a little bit repetitive, but sometimes when you've never done something before, it kind of becomes something that you have to kind of see multiple times. So the y-intercept here is 6 because the x and the 3 get wiped out. On the reverse, when you solve, you get negative 2. And then if you wanted to calculate the slope, add 3x. This one's nice. Y equals 6 plus 3x. The slope is 3. That was a fast one. And last but not least, number 6. Negative 5 for the y-intercept. On the opposite, I'm not sure if you're seeing these patterns here, but there is a quick way to look at this. So if you see it, I'm going to let you kind of use that. I'm not going to do that in the video just to not confuse anybody. But if you are seeing a quicker way to do that, all power to you, go for it. So 5x minus 3y equals 15. I want to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 5x because 5x, if you look in front of it to the left, it's positive. So negative 3y equals 15 minus 5x. Divide everything by negative 3. Y equals, this first side is negative 5. The second side is going to end up being positive 5/3 x. So my slope here is 5/3. Notice that it's positive because they were both negative. So here are the examples for those top 6. So again, in every single one, you're calculating the slope, you're calculating the y-intercept. In this video, if you watched to this point, this will be great. But I would only actually like you to do 4 of these 6 instead of all 6 of them. Just because if you stuck around to the end of that, you've already done 6. So let's cross out 2. And let's cross out 3. So why don't you just do 1, 4, 5, and 6 of the practice problems. I do want to look at one of the word problems in the back, and I think it's going to be number 9. So it's talking about, yesterday we talked about that when you have standard 4, you're going to be given 3 numbers, and you can see them here in the problem. 4 sandwiches, 3 salads, and there's a total, right? And so that's what I was talking about seeing different like categories or options. Sandwiches and salads have nothing to do with each other. The other red flag is that none of these are rates. When you're given 3 numbers and none of them is a slope, this is your red flag that you have to do something with standard form, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to name one of these things, sandwiches or salads, X or Y. It doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to name them this way. And then this is, you're always going to have a total, okay, which is going to be the C value, the one on the other side. So the equation for this is simply 4x plus 3y equals $24. Okay, so again, if you read a problem and there are 3 numbers and you don't have a slope, this tells you that you're writing something in standard form. So figure out the 2 categories or the 2 different things that this is about. Make one x, one y, and then equal it to the total. All right. And then it says that a sandwich costs $3.75. Well, sandwiches to me was x. So 4 times 375 plus 3y equals 24. And then you can kind of do this math. I'm typing it in right now. So that's 15 plus 3y equals 24. And if I subtract the 15, I get 9. Divide by 3, y equals 3. So that means that a salad was $3. All right. So hopefully this video clears up kind of, or not clears up, it goes through standard form in terms of what you need to be successful. If you were confused or not understanding something, always